Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise to speak on Bill 9, and I rise to speak very much in favour of this legislation. I believe in a woman's right to choose. I am pro-choice because I believe in a woman's fundamental right to access basic health care at a time, place, and manner of her choosing. I've always believed in that because it's not up to me or any other man or any other person to tell a woman what she should do with her own body. And women have a right to access basic health care and to do so without fear of intimidation or harassment. And I understand and respect that there are those who have an opposing view, and they are entitled in a free and democratic society to have those views, just as a woman is entitled to have access to basic health care without harassment. So free speech and free access to health care are not in any way mutually exclusive. And I was pleased to see when this bill was tabled that the government struck an appropriate balance, that the buffer zone was 50 meters, not a kilometer. It's consistent broadly with other legislation in other parts of this country. It is defensible in court. In some areas it goes slightly farther than other provinces. In some areas it goes not quite as far as other provinces. But in my estimation, it has struck a very proper and appropriate balance. And so my kudos to the government for doing that. And you know, to those who would say that the bill isn't necessary because all you need to do is go to court to get an injunction, and as I've done some research and had some conversations on this bill, I understand that those injunctions, in addition to being costly, inconvenient, time-consuming, are also not consistent from one jurisdiction to another. I understand that in Edmonton, the injunction does not cover the public sidewalk where women and their families and supporters would come and park their vehicle on the public road. And so protesters can be right there, barring them from even exiting their vehicle, and the injunction in Edmonton doesn't cover that. Now, interestingly, apparently in Calgary it does, but even still, there are some inconsistencies. So that is a problem that needs resolving, and this Assembly absolutely has the power to do that. You know, there are those who may, like I say before, who would consider themselves to be, I guess, pro-life would be the term they would choose to use to self-describe, and that is a view that is allowed to them, of course, in a free and democratic society. But if there are those in the official opposition who hold those views, I will not suggest you should. Well, would suggest you should change those views because they certainly don't match mine. I don't think they're helpful for women who would choose to exercise their rights over their own bodies. But you're entitled to that view. I would, though, expect if you hold those views, say so on the record. Let's use the Legislative Assembly of Alberta for what its purpose is. If you feel that this bill isn't necessary, if you feel that the laws that exist in this province are not appropriate, then say so. Be on the record and have the guts to do that. But unfortunately, it looks like we have an official opposition who will, if news reports and public statements are to be believed, will choose not to vote at all on this bill. And I think that's an absolute abdication of your responsibility as a legislator. You're letting down your own constituents. You're trying somehow to play some middle ground, and I don't really quite know what the game is you're playing. And the claim that this is simply a political trap for the official opposition to fall into, well, you know, based on what I have said previous and my understanding and doing some research and talking with women and with stakeholders and just friends of mine, this bill is absolutely needed. It is only a political trap because the UCP has made it a political trap. And they've decided, and through their response to this, frankly, the walkout when the bill was originally first presented at second reading was one of the most remarkable and shameful things I've ever seen in this Assembly. And so I would encourage the UCP, when the bill comes up for a vote later today, to reconsider, to be on the record with your views. There's no abstaining in life, and this issue is no different. So, access to abortion services is something we need to look at in terms of access, not just in the big cities, which there is reasonable access. In rural areas, it's less so. And I was pleased to see reports that the minister is working actively to expand access to those services closer to where women need them. I'm also pleased to see the member for Calgary Mountain View talk about prevention, talk about consent and the importance of teaching consent in school, the sex ed curriculum, and a good, robust sex ed curriculum allows women and men to understand contraception, to understand their choices, to hopefully make good choices with their lives such that abortion would not be necessary. But it will be. In certain cases, either through mistakes that happen or through some very, very tragic and trying circumstances. Women will have to make that difficult choice. But so prevention and sexual education and contraception, while important, are not the sole total answer. And I guess probably as I wrap up my comments, I will, in terms of the need for this legislation, I just want to read a direct quote from someone I had asked about this, and I'm just going to read exactly the words that she said to me. As a woman, the most concerning thing about anti-abortion protesters is their sense of entitlement over my time, my body, and my agency. It is no one's business what a woman and her doctor decide is the best healthcare choice for her. I believe wholeheartedly in free speech, but it cannot include harassment. I do not condone the characterization, again, remembering this is the words of a woman who sent me this email. I do not condone characterizing seeking an abortion as a vulnerable time in a woman's life. It can also be a relief or liberating or sorrowful. It is not up to anyone to characterize abortion for a woman. Each woman's experience of abortion is unique, and the vulnerable trope feeds into a characterization of women being weak and needing help. The, quote, debate about abortion belies an inherent desire to control women and their behavior. The misogyny behind it runs very deep. So, Mr. Speaker, I think that's probably the best place to end. There's no question the bill is needed to protect a woman's fundamental right to exercise choice over her own body. Thank you.